So what do we do if someone is merely attacking our property, such as a vehicle? Let's talk about that in this video. Stick around. Someone sent me a video the other day of one guy doing this to another man's vehicle.
Apparently he was upset that somebody parked too close to him, and people have lost their mind these days.
And he said, what would you do in this situation? Now, long before ever being in this situation,
The first thing everyone should do is go out to Google and ask this question: can I use lethal force in the protection of personal property? And you're going to get different answers depending upon the state you live in.
in the state that I live in, I am not allowed to use lethal force in the protection of mere property. If I'm going to fight back, it has to be a less than lethal option. Unless we're talking about my home. I live in a castle doctrine state. If somebody comes into my home and I feel threatened in any way, then it's go time. But these street encounters are a lot more complicated than that. Out here, it's not just about settling things like adults and going toe to toe. Oftentimes a street fight turns out to be a drag race to a weapon. I could use a less than lethal means to fight back, such as covering this kid in pepper spray, or I could just film the altercation and get as much information on it as possible, maybe even the license plates as well, and go about it that way, pressing charges. So would I pull out my burner and go after him at that time? No, I would not. Now, here's where the game changes, and that is if he's coming after me. If somebody's coming after me, then I'm going to protect myself. I'm going to use the force necessary to protect myself. The thing about self-defense is you have to protect your own head. You have to protect the people that you love. There are going to be situations where you need to just let it go if it's just your property. There may be times where you can use a less than lethal means of deterrent, and then there may be times where your less than lethal attempt can go bad. There was a video that comes to mind, and I want to give props to Stay Safe Martial Arts for sharing this video not too long ago on his channel of a guy who caught a guy trying to rob his vehicle. He was in his vehicle. I guess he was trying to steal the car. What the owner of the car did was he took off and he lunged on the guy. And they got into a fight. And then, 3 or 4 other guys came along, and now the owner of the car is fighting 4 people. Thankfully, he survived and they retreated and got out of there, but they beat on him for a while before they did. Now, there's a lot of stuff that we could talk about with this. The owner of the car could have called out to the thief from a distance and been prepared to defend himself if the thief would have come. That's what I would have done. What if, being fully armed, he said, "Hey, what are you doing? That's my car. Get out of my car." The thief may have said, all right. He may have left. Or he could have been an aggressor and tried to attack the owner. Well, that's a different scenario, obviously. He's now coming after me and not my car. Here's what we got to think about. I don't know if I would be willing to risk getting hurt or killed or even go into jail simply trying to protect a material possession in a quote-unquote self-defense situation. Cars can be replaced, but my life and my freedom can't. I believe if somebody is destroying your property and it's clear they're not going to come after you, you need to get as much information on that individual as you can. But the message I want to send in this video is be very careful about using lethal force on somebody who's not specifically coming after you. It's hard enough to get through court these days for self-defense situations anyway. You've got to have a really good case, and there is a fine line between someone destroying your property and trying to destroy you. And as I said before, in some states, if you use lethal force on someone who is merely destroying property, you could go to prison. We have got to use wisdom this day and age. We can't always just be the hero or the cowboy we want to be. There's a lot of things to self-defense scenarios. The one guy who wanted to protect his vehicle thought he was just going to get in a fight with one dude, but he jumps on that one guy, and out of a nearby vehicle comes a bunch of guys. So I'm glad the guy survived, but that is a perfect example on the need to consider doing things differently in that situation. Thanks so much for watching. Take care.